And we're live. Don, take it away, buddy.
Hey. Oh, man. Way to spring it on me. Welcome. Welcome to Drink Spin Run. I'm Don Stroud. And this is... Wait, man.
This is the episode 1. Well, okay, maybe not episode. This is the first recording session of season 3.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if we're going to do that part.
Let's do that
because we didn't talk about this at all. Hey, this is my lovely co-host, Adam Muskevich.
Hi, Don. How's it going?
It goes. I've already been drinking, so.
Yeah. That's great. I am too already. I am too already been drinking. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good words there,
I
guy.
have all the best words.
Hey, do we have some special guests tonight?
We do. Thankfully, it's not just going to be us two morons babbling at our gorgeous listeners. I almost called them the wrong name, our gorgeous listeners. Tonight, we have two guests from our fabulous neighbor nation to the north. I'm going to start. Let's see. I'm going to start in the order that they got on the show. So I'm going to start with recently having published "Blood in the Chocolate" by through the Lamentations of the Flame Princess imprint. I did it. I almost did it. You didn't screw that up. Oh,
God, son of a bitch!
What's funny is that I said your name like before we even talked.
You did.
I said it right, like to myself before we got on the air,
so
and we just
happy.
talked about this. It's Kyle Chenier.
What up?
See, and I can actually say it right. That was not. I'm not faking you out, too. I totally fucked that up. Kyle, it's a pleasure to have you here, man. Glad.
It's great to be here.
Yeah, awesome. And also with us, as well from Canada. You guys are both outside Toronto, right? Or Toronto-ish? Inside, outside. Got it. So we have Raven Crow King himself, Mr. Daniel Bishop. If you don't know Daniel Bishop, it's because you don't read DCC stuff, and you should start. Daniel, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here.
We are so glad to have both you gents. And we are going to... Let's just jump right into it, since this is Drink Spin Run. I'm going to start with you, Daniel, because your beautiful face is up on my screen. Daniel...
What is the camera not working?
Ha! Yes. What are you drinking, sir?
I am drinking this French press vanilla stout.
Oh man.
Tell us about it. What can you tell us?
From Double Trouble Brewing Company.
Where's Double
It's
Trouble?
smooth and it's tasty. It's in Guelph. That's Canada. Ontario.
Okay.
I lived in Guelph for a few years when I was
There
a
you
kid. That's where I grew up.
Well, there you go.
Isn't there a
Good things
crazy...
come out of Guelph.
There's a crazy jazz festival there every year, right?
There is, yeah.
Yeah, that's all I know about Guelph.
Do you know
It's
about
a
this
cool
jazz?
university town.
Do you know about this jazz festival because of your wife?
No, it's like edgier stuff, like avant-garde stuff.
Cool.
Hey, I have a quick question. Should I be muted on the Hangouts video call?
No, you should not.
No?
You should,
All right.
You should not. We might want to view if you're going to mute anything, you might want to mute your incoming sound on the other thing.
All right.
The magic secret sauce.
This is a whole new.
We're going to cut this part out.
No, we're not.
Sure you are.
Ain't nobody gonna hear this business.
Yeah. Hey, Kyle, what are you drinking?
So I'm actually just getting over bronchitis. So unfortunately no alcohol, but I am also drinking some coffee out of a Skull mug.
There you go.
Nice.
All right. Get some kind of cred there. That's good. Yeah.
It's not great coffee though.
Unfortunately, we intended on recording this last Monday, and unfortunately we couldn't because I was horrifically ill. If you had bronchitis, Kyle, I was just completely laid out. I could not be as vertical as you are now last Monday.
Yeah.
It was
No,
a rough time.
it sounded like a bad time.
Oh, it was awful. It was awful. And it was my wife and I, and our son had gotten it like 2 days before. It was super rough. Don Stroud, what are you drinking?
Well, let me tell you. So I just went to this dinner thing, and the reason I maybe am off my game is we were drinking Perrin No Rules. Have you had that before?
I have not, but I love Perrin's beers.
The Vietnamese porter.
What?
It's like 15%. So I was drinking that, and then
Holy
we
shit.
rush home to record this epic podcast we do. And luckily, I popped in Whole Foods before that, and I got a bottle of Rogue's New Crustacean. It's barley wine-ish Imperial IPA, sort of.
I think I saw that on the shelf because that sort of.
It's a bright blue bottle. It's like spray painted bottle.
It must not be that then. That kind of wishy-washy descriptor doesn't exactly inspire confidence in me. How is it?
I just had my first swig. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of barley wine-ish. It's kind of imperially, and it's kind of an IPA. It's like a.
So it's not lying to you, is what you're saying.
It's like a double IPA, but not quite as caramely. A little. It's actually really bitter on the back end. Like I like my women. It's 11.6%. I have to drink out of the 22 ounce because I still have water in my glass. I was like, oh, I can't drink beer until I finish my water since I've already been drinking. And then my wife came down and wanted me to open it. And then you asked me before I had it, so I had to rush it.
That was way too much explanation. I didn't need all that.
Man.
That's way more information than I needed.
How about you tell me what you're drinking?
How about I do that? Because I'm enjoying this an awful lot. It's Brewery Vivant's Verdun, which is a I don't know what this varietal means, but it's called Bière de Garde. That's the type of beer it is. I'm not familiar with the Bière de Garde, but this is really good. Yeah, it's 7%. So not anything, not like your 11 or your bazillion. What is it, 18%? Vietnamese sucker punch. But this is really good. I don't know. It's got that. It's kind of got a little bit of a hoppy sweetness, but without the bitter that a lot of the stuff that gets too hoppy has. I just don't enjoy. So I really like this one. This will be in my regular rotation of Brewery Vivant beers.
Nice.
Right up there with the BRC,
The BRC.
The BRC, yeah.
In the tree bucket.
I don't like the tree bucket, man.
You are crazy.
I don't like it. Well, it's too hoppy.
You're crazy.
It's not the
too hoppy?
It's the wrong kind of hoppy for me.
All right.
I gotta check that out. I like hoppy beer. What is it? Bière de Garde?
It's a Bière de Garde. Yeah. Spelling those words the
like
French
a
way.
Strong pale ale, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. It is a strong pale ale. I really like it.
All right. Cool.
All right. So
hey, let me take this.
You do it.
If I remember right, we're going to talk about reading next.
You don't remember right.
Drink spin. We're going to talk about music next.
Yeah, there you go. All right, good job. Way to remember how your show works.
I know, this is my concept. I'm going to go...
I forgot, yeah. This is your idea in the first place, you bastard.
I just can't stop hearing you talk. So do you want to start, Adam? And we're going to go down the line that your little pictures appear to me.
Okay,
in the Hangouts.
I can start if that's what you would like. So ask me the question.
I just did, didn't I? Hey, no. Adam Miscavige, my lovely co-host. What are you listening to?
That was a little overblown, but thank you. I have had just a wealth of great new music lately, and so I'm not going to list everything that I've been spinning lately. There are two bands that I've gotten into recently that, oddly enough, though they share no connection to one another, both come from the same country, and that is the same country my ancestors do, of Poland. The first Gabriel Perez Gashardi got me into, and that is a Polish like stoner doom band called Weedcraft, and I think they named themselves like ironically after both Weed and the World of Warcraft. But it's really good stuff. It's a lot of fun. It kind of is like a little bit more like, I don't know, kind of like a naive stoner doom kind of thing. It's a lot of fun. I like it. Very hook heavy. Really good. The other band is also from Poland. They're called Space Slug, and they're still a little stonery, still a little doomy, but they're far more like like cosmic feeling. They have a lot of like, open sonic textures that kind of mimic the feeling of vast distances and stuff like that. Kind of really, really cool band there that I'm kind of more psych than doom, and I really like that. It's been a lot of fun. So that's me.
Cool.
Kyle, what about you? What have you been spinning?
Not a heck of a lot, to be honest. The past few months and everything, because I've been so sick, I haven't listened to a lot of music and stuff. I've definitely been jamming a lot of podcasts and things lately. If you haven't heard of them, check out the Comedy Button. They're basically The View for guys. They're basically just The View but stupid. They're fantastic. It's a lot of guys in the video game industry out in San Francisco, which I spend a lot of time there. Likewise, I've also been listening to a couple other shows like Cool Games Inc. A couple of guys out San Francisco way and everything from Polygon.com. They're a hypothetical game design comedy podcast where they receive Twitter submissions and they basically come up with game concepts based on them.
Cool.
Nick Robinson and Griffin McElroy. Aside from that, it's pretty much been. I mean, I listen to a lot of hip hop and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically been it.
Hip hop, indeed. Here's the thing that happened since we last recorded. Don.
Yeah.
New Tribe Called Quest album. Sorry, I had to throw it out there.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
You haven't heard it?
No, I had not yet.
Kyle, get on that. It is
I'm gonna.
phenomenal. A lot of times when an old school group drops a new album, it's like, oh, they didn't pay any attention to anything that happened between then and now. Holy shit, have they been paying attention? If you were into Tribe back in the day, that new album is fantastic and it's modern but still, has their classic feel. I
gotta check that out.
It's so good. It's so good. So, I mean, and it's not just because it's very political. It's also great. Don, I took over your attempt to run this segment.
Yeah, I mildly rolled my eyes, but I got over it.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Daniel, what are you spinning?
Well, I am probably the least cool person in the room.
All right.
As far as that, I've got kids, and Adam, you're going to get there. But for example, today, Moana soundtrack.
Oh.
Now, dude, that's a dope soundtrack.
It's actually not that bad. But
I'm such a big fan of Lin-Manuel Miranda, and goddamn, that is I remember seeing.
I didn't know he did
that. That's fantastic. Cool. There's some really good songs on that.
Yeah, it's okay to say you're welcome.
That's cool. I disagree with that sentiment, but
it
should always be thank you.
That's a song that The Rock sings, and it's so good.
Yeah. You'll get there because yours is too young, but
that having been said, he definitely has taste in music. There's some stuff he likes way more than others, and it's always a surprise. The stuff he'll really jam to. He decided he really likes ska, but not third wave, that stuff. He doesn't even really like second wave ska very much. It's got to be shit like Toots and the Maytals or Prince Buster. But when he hears that stuff, he just starts dancing, and it's hilarious. I'm going to trade a parental music tip with you, Daniel. Have you seen the show on Netflix, Storybot Super Songs?
Nope.
Most of the songs on there are really good. Some of them are crap, but most of, they have, every episode has a different music producer, so every episode's in a different style. And if you didn't like that episode, wait 15 minutes. If you didn't like that musical style, wait 15 minutes. You're gonna get something new. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, most of my other playlist is 80s because that's when I was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the oldest person I'm sure in the room.
Mm-hmm. Maybe.
If you got Don
50.
beat, you got me beat.
I'm 50.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm only 42.
You're a Ute?
Ute.
That's the
I'm in my
coming up out in you, huh?
I'm in my mid to late 20s.
Oh wow.
Hey, this time I'm not the youngest guy in the room. That's cool.
Hey.
That happens way more times on this podcast than I thought. especially because Don kept thinking he was younger than I am.
Well, you act so old.
I know, who'd have thought? I act so mature.
I wouldn't say mature, but thanks for asking me what I'm spinning. I also don't have the best answer. Also, I alone. I've just been listening to like Pandora stations. Like it's
Come on.
nothing to. Although
Why'd you even say
week-
that out loud? Like everybody's listening to Pandora stations.
I know.
Why do you?
I know.
You don't have to talk about it. It's like I'm breathing right now. I don't know if you guys noticed
breathing.
that.
I don't even listen to NPR anymore because
Let me tell you something I listened to recently that involves you, and that's an episode of another podcast that you were on.
that's right.
You were on Fox and Friends with Hobbs and Friends.
Fox and Friends.
I had to give Jason Hobbs a little bit of shit here. I love the man.
Yeah.
But he
Jason
totally
Hobbs
named his show something that sounds an awful, which is Hobbs and Friends of the OSR. Doesn't that sound just like Fox and Friends?
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay.
I never really thought of it.
I thought of it the minute I heard.
Yeah, I was on that.
That's their alternative name.
Yeah, I was on that. You know what? I haven't listened to podcasts. There's a podcast I love that's not related to gaming much called The Unexplained, which is all about
Tell me
stuff
on it.
that's unexplained. Do you know when I was a kid, we had these, I'm sure other people did too, these books called The Unexplained. And, there was a ghost one and there was a relics one, like Stonehenge and stuff.
Oh, those
And,
books, the
yeah.
the encyclopedia. Yeah, those were awesome.
Yeah.
Mysteries
They
of
have
the
a black
Mind.
cover, silver,
Silver lame, or like yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Silver
like
foil.
silver on black covers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I always loved that
Yes.
as a kid. And, this podcast just covers unexplained things. Each episode is like, he did one on, I don't want to get into it, but it's great. Check it out. That's the thing I'm most excited about. And
I thought you said it had nothing to do with gaming.
well, it's true because every time I listen, I'm like, oh, that's gameable. Oh my God, are
Yeah,
you
exactly.
serious? That's gameable. Like, it's so full of little nuggets.
Yeah, history really is. You get the most sort of, like, I've gotten the most mileage out of gameable stuff just out of, like, strange historical events and things like that.
Mhm.
Yeah. So this is out every 2 weeks. So it's hard to wait for it. But yeah, everybody should check that out. If you love games and you love ideas, check out The Unexplained. That's
The
my
Unexplained. Sounds good. I'm in.
Yeah.
Let's do it. So I'll pick up there.
Do it.
So Don, what are you reading?
Thanks for asking. What am I reading? I'm reading non-game book. I'm reading
I think we should get back to our like game reading doesn't count for this section because I feel
Yeah.
like all we're talking about is like which of our. I mean, we could talk about Kyle's book here. That's fine because we did just both read it.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm
Well,
glad.
and we will.
Yeah, we will.
So Chaosium does these
Mm.
these like collections, and I meant to grab it and have it down here. It's next to my bed. Chaosium does these collections, and I got a bunch for Christmas because I didn't know what else to ask for. There's like the Innsmouth cycle.
Mhm.
I'm reading the Hestur one.
Oh, I've been
Which-
meaning to read that. How is it?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it covers everything from Chambers. Lovecraft's got some stuff in there, or they put some Lovecraft in there. It's got like modern writers in it. It's pretty neat.
I was
should've-
wondering how much Chambers would be in there. Since you and I had that big thing about
Yeah.
when I read the Chambers, you're like, oh shit, you're finally getting around to that. It was
Right, yeah. So the two that are in there are like the first two of the
yeah.
collection,
Mhm.
which are what's his nuts? Blackwood's in there.
Mm.
What's his nuts?
Algernon Blackwood.
Yes.
AKA
What's his nuts? Blackwood.
Yeah.
No, it's not. What's awesome about it is Ambrose Bierce is in it. It's like he
that
starts
is cool.
it off.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, because I mean that was like the first mention of Hastur and Carcosa, right? So it's like a nice little compilation, and I've got like 5 of them in the series.
I might need to borrow that from you when
yeah. You're yours to borrow.
I'll fix that book for you, and then I'll borrow that book from you. That one,
right.
Your copy of. I'll borrow that in return. So let's keep this going. Daniel Bishop, what's your reading?
A lot of stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Most recently, I just finished The Mucker once again, Edgar Rice Burroughs. Because I do my appendice on reading.
Yeah.
I should give a shout out to Knight's Dominion by Ted Neva, which is like if the Justice League was in a D&D setting. And then just a bunch of stuff. A lot of Western mythology, actually, right now, or Western folklore for something that I'm working on.
Cool.
Like by Western mythology, do you mean, or folklore, you mean like
Happy Trails to You?
Okay, got it. Yeah, like Tall Tale kind of stuff.
I mean, like American West, like
cool. You've been talking to Eric Jensen?
No, I've been talking to David Beatty.
Oh, yeah, he's a good person to be talking to for that. This is all code, Kyle.
It's all good.
Kyle Chenier, what are you reading?
I actually just finished reading for the first time Uzumaki by Junji Ito. It is possibly the best example of cosmic horror I think I've ever seen. It's a manga. They've got a big collected edition of it now. It is fantastic. Like, it absolutely, like, Lovecraft stuff is kind of hit or miss, but it takes the idea of, like, again, like old one sort of cosmic horror things that are like influencing people on this really sort of like strange level. It absolutely nails that in a way that so few other pieces of fiction do.
Awesome.
If you haven't heard of it, or if you haven't heard of Junji Ito in general, and you're into horror and you can, stomach some really messed up stuff, it's fantastic.
It's that last part of the equation that's tough for a lot of folks, I think. Right?
Other than that, I've been reading a lot of game stuff recently. I don't know how much I can talk about it, but I've recently been reading through Reynaldo Madrinian's Break.
Yeah.
The book is almost done, and I've been helping him playtest it. That game, so good. If you haven't heard about it, it's sort of it's a fantasy game sort of inspired by like 8-bit, 16-bit video games and manga and things. It's absolutely excellent. I can't wait till it's finally out.
Yeah, that's been coming for a while now, right? I mean, well, it's not like a glacial progress. It's not like we saw it, coming from aeons back. I mean, it's. I remember when it was first announced, maybe like 2 years ago or so. I love everything I've seen for it. Looks really cool. So it's good to know that it's living up to the hype, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it sort of blew up in scope and everything. Like once Grey Wiz started working on all of the art and everything, and more the scale of it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And now it's this sizable game.
Cool. Neat.
What are you reading, Adam?
Damn it. This is the part of the show I've been dreading because with the break that we had between seasons, I really should have read a lot of stuff. And sure, I've read a lot of gaming stuff, but I don't feel like my answers there are important,
Whoa. Weren't you reading Wuthering Heights?
I was not reading Wuthering Heights. No. Thanks for asking. I am reading something that I'm unfortunately still reading because it's like fits. I'm reading it in fits. It's like starts and stops, and then I'll enjoy like one chapter, and then it hurts my brain for a while. I'm reading The Lies of Locke Lamora, which several of our gorgeous listeners have recommended to me. A number of friends of mine who are into fantasy stuff have said you should read this, and these are the same people who told me to read Game of Thrones. So these are people I listen to. I'm not like mad that they recommended this. It's just not something I think knowing what I know now, I would have spent my time on. The characters are a little more Mary Sue than I tend to like. It's fine. It's perfectly reasonable reading. Unfortunately, I demand a little bit more from my reading than just perfectly reasonable. So that's my seal of mediocrity on Lies of Locke Lamora. It's okay.
It's been on my reading list for ages now. My girlfriend really likes it, and she keeps telling me to read it. But I haven't gotten around to it yet. But
it's fine. It's, I honestly think it would have been improved if it was not fantasy. If it was done as historical fiction, I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more. And I think it could have been rewritten to be historical fiction. I just think that the things that it relies on, the fantasy things that it relies on, aren't necessary or even useful. Like, you could have figured out a way to do that without it being a fantasy novel, and it would have been much more impactful and actually probably a bit more interesting. That's my take on it. I'm not a fantasy snob. I don't only read fantasy. I don't have a problem with it, clearly. But I think that if it's gonna be a fantasy novel, the fantasy part of it should improve the story. And maybe I'm just not at the part sadly only about just over halfway through this novel that maybe I haven't gotten to the part where the fantasiness of it improves it. But I'm not sold that what I've read has improved the story. That's me, and I'm a jerk.
So I can't tell you.
Yeah, I don't even know what you're talking about.
I'm surprised. Hey, Don, I keep every time you flash on the screen, I see something that's awful sexy that you're wearing right now.
Oh man, I feel like I'm wearing the band's concert t-shirt.
I know, you showed up to the show wearing our shirt, man.
I just wore it today, and I rushed back from this dinner so fast I didn't have the time to. I was like, oh crap, I'm gonna be that guy. Yeah, I'm wearing the what did you call it? The Necrolich?
Narcolich.
That makes more sense.
Because originally it was supposed to have a bong. Yeah. Remember? Yeah. That was the thing. It was supposed to have, but it's okay that the bong didn't make it in there. I don't care. It's he's still a badass looking crazy lich.
Yeah. So this is our Drinks Been Run t-shirts for the second season. It had a little bit of a different design.
Very different design. And they're still available.
Still on sale, yeah.
I will have some at GaryCon if you see me there. You can always buy them and you won't have to pay shipping that way. Or they're always for sale on our store, so you can get them there too. But that was a really shitty advertisement. I'm an ass. I'm sorry. I didn't mean.
I'm gonna edit that out because I feel like pushing consumerism onto.
You should do that. You shouldn't. We shouldn't be consumerist jerks.
Oh come on! Narcolich T-shirt available now.
It's pretty sweet.
It's still available.
Yeah,
that's
true. That is exceptionally limited quantity of these things. I think we only had like about 50 made. I think. So
yeah. Less maybe. Who knows? I don't keep track of these things.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay.
Which brings us to our last question of part 1 of whatever episode this is.
The first one of the third season.
First one of the third season.
First one we're recording. Something could go horribly wrong, and this ends up being the 7th episode of the season. We don't know.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, the run section. I'm gonna go with Kyle first. What are you running?
Game wise? Yes. Oh god, a bunch of stuff now. So I'm running a playtest of Break, where Reynaldo Madridian is one of the players, and I've got 2 other players who I adore. They're wonderful people, and it's a fantastic game. Right now, they're starting out in an area of the world called the Wistful Dark, where it is perpetually nighttime, and they have all these clustered cities around broken down sun shards, which provides a little bit of light. It's kind of a city crawl right now. It's kind of a good time. I run a lot of 5th edition. I write a lot of stuff for D&D 5e. I'm about to restart my Curse of Strahd game. I had a bit of a hiatus while I was sick. And intermittently, I've also been running a lot of LOTFP and Blood in the Chocolate. sort of promoting it and stuff.
Absolutely. While we're on the crass commercialism segment of the show, let's point out.
Oh, yeah.
Kyle recently published, James Raggi and Lamentations of the Flame Princess recently published Kyle's fantastic adventure, Blood on the Chocolate, and this is actually going to be key to the second half of the show. Because I'm not giving much away when I say it's Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory given historical context and D&Dified, right? Yeah. And it's a shit ton of fun and things make sense and I love it. We'll talk more about that in the second half of the show. But yeah, absolutely pick it up right now. I'm sorry, you had more stuff you were running.
No.
And then
I think
that's a plug for you.
That's about it.
All right, then we'll switch over to Daniel Bishop. What are you running, sir?
Most recently, I ran the playtest for A Fire in the Mountain, which will be coming out with Purple Duck Games. And I am also had the opportunity at work to do a team building exercise with Michael Curtis's Frozen in Time.
Nice.
Cool.
Which is ongoing. It's an ongoing team building exercise.
Uh-huh.
And upcoming, my first run before GaryCon of Gnome Jambalaya.
Ooh.
Okay, you can't just say
Cajun Gnomes on Blackwater Bayou.
Thank you. There you go. It's like, you can't just leave it at Gnome Jambalaya.
Cajun Gnomes in a funnel. Cajun Gnomes on Blackwater Bayou. Because this meteor came down.
Is this like your version of like, I don't know,
the color out of space with gnomes and Deliverance? Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It is to you what Shutter Mountains is to Michael Curtis. Is that what I'm hearing? Is that what I'm feeling?
You could use it with Shutter Mountain if you wanted.
I'm saying
Mountain.
Similar kind of like conceptual space. Like your relationship to this, is that anything like Michael Curtis is to Shutter Mountains?
No, my older daughter wanted to play a gnome, so I needed a gnome funnel.
Oh, okay. Got it.
When I write a funnel, of course, I try to think of what the worst thing is that could happen to these poor little guys. That's it.
Awesome.
I like it.
Sounds great. So Don, what about you?
I actually have been running games over the break. I'm still doing my weird little Bronze Age DCC campaign thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it all had been just stuff I'd written, and I think I'm going to jump into some published things because I have purchased a lot of modules, both third party and official Goodman Games, and they just sit there and I look at the pictures. I'm like, ooh, pretty, and I want to just start using them, or I'm going to have to.
Yeah. I'm with
So
you.
yeah. So I think I can't even say we're gonna jump into because
they might be listening.
a couple of them do listen. So
yeah,
that is all I've actually been running. That's all I've been playing too. How about you, Adam? What are you running out there?
Folks who pay attention to this space here on Twitch may have noticed that DSR's first actual play of this season began last Wednesday. As we, I'm actually, one of the things we're doing is an actual play this time around is my actual home RuneQuest game. Well, and by home game I mean my G Plus Hangouts game. And it's a pretty great cast. We had the group grow by 2 and then shrink by 1. Although we might be getting Gabriel back soon. He's just taking some time off for personal biz. But it's RuneQuest 6. We're doing the ye old Griffin Mountain setting from RuneQuest 2. But we're running it in slightly more modern RuneQuest rules. So there's a couple of things that are a bit different. I've basically stripped out a little bit of the fiddliness of the RuneQuest 2, which is cool. It has involved a lot of work on my part, like shoehorning it back in, to that newer, or like taking the old stuff out, taking the old parts out, putting new parts in, putting it all back together. But the cool thing that it's really let me do is really play with the narrative of the game. I don't know if anybody here followed my blog last time we were doing this game, but this is a continuation of an older campaign where the players were all like Neolithic hunter-gatherers, right? And there are, none of them have metal weapons, none of them have metal tools, armor, anything like that. In fact, none of them have armor. Instead, they have some awesome magic and some badass hunting skills. So they're literally tribal hunters. Fast forward, and the way I was telling the story, the way I'm doing a really bad job because this beer is really good. But the way the story progressed was basically like every once in a while, or so often, we just jump ahead a season, rather than, tell the story, like just keep it going on a day-to-day basis. We'd be like, okay, this event is happening during this season. We resolve that event. Here's the next season, the thing going on there, but here's the stuff from before that's still weighing in, and here's the little hints of the thing to come that are already weaved in there. And it was really cool, and it got us moving forward really well. We got to see how a year of these hunter-gatherers' lives go, and we're going to do that again. A big part of the world of Glorantha is the myths that people tell each other, and that people use to explain how their world works. And one of the coolest things about this world, I mean, Greg Stafford came up with this game, with this this setting like back in the 60s, right? And it was the setting for White Bear, Red Moon, which was a huge, war game back in the 70s, like before RuneQuest even was conceived of. So it has a pre-RPG history, which is pretty fucking sweet. And one of the big things that's a part of this game is, and the setting of Glorantha is kind of the clash of myths and the clash of cultures. But everybody's myths and everybody's cultural interpretations of the myths that exist, they're all equally true. So that's been one of the fun things, is having these guys tell me the myths that their characters believe. Case in point, this last Wednesday, and you can see it, the video in our Twitch channel, and soon to be on our YouTube channel as well. One of the cool things about that is, like, I asked them to tell me, fill in the gaps in this particular story for me. This is how, the High King of the ages of old, came to rule. And they told me, oh, he did this. Okay, well then what did the tribesmen do to show their loyalty? Oh, they did this. So we went through all of the stuff. And that was the two players who have been with the campaign for a while. After that, I brought in the two new players, who are Rob Shoemate and friend of the show and friend of several people here, I'm sure, Dr. Edgar Johnson. They're from a slightly more advanced culture. They're not Neolithic tribesmen. They're actually like Bronze Age people. So I asked them, how are they wrong? What's wrong about their version of this myth? And the cool thing there is now we've got this dissonance in the party, about this is one way of looking at it, this is another way of looking at it, and that has caused, basically it gave me everything I needed to know to run this fucking game for the next spate. So if you watch that video, you'll see that, and you'll see over the next, however many weeks this takes, that everything that I will need to run the game, they gave me in session 1. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I'm really excited by it. It's really cool. So that's what I've been running most recently, and I'm super fucking excited about it because I haven't run anything since season 2 ended.
Nice.
But that's it for me.
Nice. That would about wrap part 1 up.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to do a thing.
Oh.
This thing is, at the end of part 1, I'm going to read email questions people send us. At the end of part 2, I will read reviews. So right now I read the emails people send us.
People send us emails?
No, that's why I'm not reading anything right now.
Oh, you son of a bitch.
But if they want
with me
to read their email, I would do it right now.
Yeah, and you can send it to dsr@kickassistan.net. And then I'll make sure that Don gets it to read it on this segment. Yeah, awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for getting me all built up. I was thinking we had.
Other than that, I'd like to thank our special guest, my lovely co-host. And you want to give us a little teaser of what's coming up in part 2?
Oh yes,
Adam.
yes indeed I will. Folks, in just a few moments, if you're viewing at home and if you're listening at home, it'll be next week. Join this illustrious cast as we take some time to reflect on mining our childhood and childhood literature for fantastic gaming opportunities.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
I'm excited. I think we really did. I mean, we get Kyle on here like, oh shit, gotta make this happen. Who can I? Oh, Daniel Bishop, shit yeah. And then Daniel said, "It's fantastic." I'm so hyped. All right, you guys, you all have a great evening. Thank you so much for being here. To our lovely guests, to our what do we say about the guests?
They're special?
Special? There, no, you say special. That makes me think like short bussy. But
That's rude.
yeah, I know. Why would you be so rude? Fantastic guests.
Yeah, hold on. You guys trying to say I'm not special?
You are special.
Don't take that away from me.
I'm
Sons
sorry,
of bitches.
Kyle. Yeah.
I'm a special person, and you will realize that.
Yeah.
No, it's all good.
Pretty special.
Yeah.
All right, and thank you to our gorgeous listeners. You guys are fantastic. Thanks for joining us for season 3. Don, my lovely co-host, thanks for being here. And guys,
Always.
we'll see you all shortly.
Yes. All right.
I'm all. What did What was it?
I don't know.
Oh no, it was talking about the beer being. Was it Beerengard?
Yeah.
Yeah. Beer de Garde.
Beer de Garde. That's what it was and everything. Yeah.
Just
As
kinda
soon as you
sounds
brought it
like-
up, I was like, Beer de Garde? Violet Beer de Garde? Violet, you can't Violet. I was gonna make that shitty pun, and then I was like, oh, I don't know about that. I don't know. I don't know if anybody's gonna be down with that because it's really, really bad.
Is that the unfortunate events?
No, it's a
Right.
character from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yep, missed that one.
Missed
I
it.
thought I was getting the joke, discovered I was wrong. Oh, man.
That's all right.
Yeah, it's that time of night.
Like I said, it was a really bad pun.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and demute everybody. Here we go.
All right. What
Do
are
it.
we going to be? Should I introduce?
Hold
on,
No, it's my
I'm
turn.
so
It's the
loud.
second. It's the second half. This
All
is the
right.
one I do. You
And
do
if-
the first one. I do the second one
All right.
because I'm too shy in the first half.
I can't believe that to be a true statement.
What's really funny is it is actually the truth, and it's like this is all just balls. That's all it is. That's like me getting into the start of the show is just basically just sucking it up and just soldiering forth because I no matter what it is, if we're talking a game, if I'm about to run a game, if I'm about to do a podcast, about to do anything, like I get stage fright real fierce. I just have to we're doing this. Jump right into the. You don't believe me, Don. I know.
That's crazy
That's
because
the
I'm
human
a
condition.
yeah, but I always thought I was a shy one. Like
You are, I'm sure, but you're like the slightly more introverted amongst an introverted crew. I think. I found out that Briggs-Meyer personality test. I am like a shade, the merest shade on the extrovert side. Other than that, my wife and I are the exact same personality type, but except she's a hard introvert on that side. So I'm just barely extroverted, just enough to know that this is all bullshit, So, sorry, Daniel, you look like you were about to say a thing.
he was.
Nope.
You sure?
Oh, really sure.
I think
right.
you're lying to me.
Well, you're running a podcast and you're calling yourself introverted. Barely extroverted.
What are you talking about? Everybody here. Everybody else is
Look,
here.
it's the human condition. It's the human condition that if you have to do something where you're in front of a crowd or in front of a group, that you have to, balls it out. That's life. Get it
No,
going.
you absolutely do. You're absolutely
Everyone.
correct. You really
Everyone.
do. Just
I don't
shut the
believe
fuck
anyone.
up and you do it, right? You just jump in
Yeah.
and you make it happen. And not everybody can do that, and that's okay. Not everybody can suck it up, but you've got to
Yeah,
figure
but it
out
doesn't
your
make you an
ability to do
introvert that you have to work at it.
that. No.
Hmm.
We all have to work at it.
I recognize I'm full of shit here, dude. Don't worry.
Okay.
Nobody
Well,
knows
I'm just
I'm full of
calling you
shit
out, that's
more
all.
than me. I know exactly how full of shit I am because I'm the one saying it.
Nice.
I'm really glad this is funny. All right, that's good. Oh,
Are we
hey,
live?
so we have been live this whole time.
Yeah.
We've actually been recording this as well, so we've got some great.
Well, it's all going
outtakes.
in.
We
yeah.
got-
Oh yeah. I am.
We
I'm
got
not
some
cutting them
outtakes
out.
for the blooper reel, or whatever we do, whenever we do it. Hi, folks. Welcome back to Drink Spin Run, the RPG Talk Show podcast. I'm Adam Skevich, one of your two lovely co-hosts. Along with me, as always, is my lovely co-host, Mr. Don Stroud. Don, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you very much. I'm like the Remora, and you're my shark.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's-
you like that?
Can we do cool analogies every episode now?
Yes.
Cool. So the first
I'll
one,
start.
I'll come up with one, and then you do the second one. It'll be good. So,
All right.
Don,
Yes.
tell us a bit about what we're here to talk about today.
So let me first start out. We haven't talked about this.
I know.
Like at first I was like, oh, I don't really like this topic at all because I don't really like any of this. Like I just thought it was going to be silly, but then I finally read.
Blood in the Chocolate.
Well, no, I was going to first. I did get that. I read it. I'm like, wow, this is great. Like
There's that
acknowledge the source
again.
material, and it's not ruining it for me. Like it's still great.
Mm-hmm.
I may not be a big fan of childhood literature, maybe. And then
So can you tell us what we're actually here to talk about instead of just dancing
yes.
around it? Just get to that, and then
I like to dance, Adam.
I know you do. I've seen it. It's a beautiful thing.
I like to dance. We are talking about how. What are we talking about, Adam?
Okay, so I'll go ahead and I'll bite. I'll answer my own damn question.
But I'm not done talking.
Yeah, we'll come back to you in just a sec. What today? We have gathered an illustrious panel of folks to talk about mining childhood and childhood literature. Not necessarily just the literature. It could really be anything about childhood, for gameable material. And to this end, we have gathered just the best panel I could think of for this conversation. Fresh off of the success of the aforementioned Blood in the Chocolate, we have Kyle Chenier. Kyle, how you doing, sir? Well, glad to have you back.
Bad.
Yeah.
Good day.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, no, it's going good.
Thank
You just you are more Canadian in those few seconds than I thought people were allowed to admit.
I gotta pull it out every so often.
Okay, you just gotta turn the Canadian valve just up. Got it.
Oh yeah.
Good.
You're in Michigan there, aren't you, Adam?
Yes.
Yeah. So am I.
If you drive up to the UP, you'll hear people who sound more Canadian up there than anyone in Canada I've ever heard.
Oh yeah. We know. Oh yeah. That's remember early. I told you we don't go to the UP unless you gotta.
Yeah, I know.
Also joining us with his tales of the UP, the author of the Fairy Tales from Sunlit Shores, a series of modules.
Unlit.
That's what I said. Unlit. What did I say?
Not sunlit.
No, unlit. I
Sunlit.
said unlit. I did not say sunlit.
Okay, there we go.
Unlit.
Slurred his S right into the unlit.
Fairy Tales from
from
like
Tales.
French.
Okay.
Yeah, it got all the way down there.
From
That's how you heard it. Yeah, Fairy Tales from Unlit Shore. We
No worries.
this is how I was
Sunlit
able
would
to
be
get
different.
the Chenier out without batting an eye. We have Mr. Daniel Bishop. Daniel, it's a pleasure to have you here again, sir. Glad you're here. All right, so Don.
Yeah.
Finish
Yeah,
the
I
thought.
think-
Your
all right,
meandering
finish my thought.
attempt at a thought. You were.
First of all, my second thought is we could not have had two better people on for
Right?
this topic. Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
So, kudos everyone involved.
Who would be
That
better?
was my
I don't
part
know.
2 of my first thought. Oh yeah, and then I read Prince Charming Reanimator. That was you, right?
That was Daniel. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm like, dude,
That was me.
this is great stuff. What was I worried about? This is going to be a great topic. I may not have much to add, but it's perfect.
Don
Because-
likes to really second guess my ideas for shows.
Always, all the time.
Well, he started by trying to say, "Well, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be."
So yeah, I mean, like, and I think so this is, I'm going to jump a lot of discussion. For me, this is like, it's like a glimpse of something, with a twist. It's like a mixed drink, you know what rum tastes like, but what if you could put a little lime in there and like a little bit of other fancy stuff people put in mixed drinks.
Like Coke.
Yeah, I was trying to avoid Coke, but that's exactly what
You gotta toss
goes
some
in rum.
shot syrup, next door bitters.
Yeah. No, so like it gives you something you're very familiar with for like your whole life, and then makes it even more awesome. So those are great, guys. Show's done. Bam.
Okay. Yeah, it's good. It's
Thanks
a
for
good thing to
listening,
do.
everybody.
No, we haven't talked about shit. We just talked about yes, it's good. Okay, great.
No, it's
Don.
genius. Like, yeah, it really works.
Well, okay. So we got a bunch of different ways we can take this conversation. We could talk about what makes it work, because I think we have two guys who succeed at it in very different but similar ways, right? Kyle, Don hit on something that I loved about Blood in the Chocolate, and I love that it is familiar, and yet you've changed the things that wouldn't work in the implied setting of, or sorry, almost explicit setting of Lamentations of the Flame Princess, right? It makes sense in the historical context.
Yeah.
Like, I had a moment when I was reading it, and I was like, "Oh, motherfucker just wrote Oompa Loompas," and like I said it out loud, and my wife was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" But you made Oompa Loompas, you made them make sense. That alone is
I'm really glad.
irrational.
Okay, I'm really glad that you think that makes sense and everything. Like I wanted, because I felt like you can't. So, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the original book by Roald Dahl, is incredibly fanciful.
Mm-hmm. Nigh whimsical.
And and that's fine. Like it's great for the kids' book and everything, but like I am the biggest fan of the Mel Stewart 1971 film with Gene Wilder. That strips out enough of the really ridiculous stuff to make it much more sort of palatable and everything. Where I'm like, oh, this is a way better film than Charlie and the Chocolate Factory was a book.
Mm-hmm.
And that was sort of the same thing. Like, I'm gonna take this Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory premise. How do I make it work in an implied 17th century setting? Well, you can't have that chocolate factory without having like Oompa Loompa sort of surrogates and everything. So I tried to think, it's like, well, I need diminutive, small monster creatures, but I also want to, imply a lot about the setting and everything. So it's like, well, because one of the big things about Blood and the Chocolate is that it moves away from a lot of the sort of cosmic horror and otherworldly horror of a lot of Lamentations, the Flame Princess stuff. Because that's something that James Raji really, really wanted with this book. He was like, I want something that's very, not mundane, but not extraordinary.
I don't know if not extraordinary is the right way to say it. It's very human in a way,
Yeah, that's maybe a better way of putting it. Like, it's specifically the theme of the book and everything is about how, like, the evils of, mankind's sort of greed and opportunistic nature and everything basically outpacing the low evils of, like, supernatural threats and things.
Mm-hmm.
So with that and everything, I was like, okay, well, how do I have Oompa Loompas and stuff? Well, the original Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, like, way early on in its, when it came out in 1964 and everything, like, the Oompa Loompas were nakedly sort of pygmy allegories. Like, they were literally just very, very tiny sort of slave people. And I wasn't cool with that. Like, I didn't want to go that far, but I still wanted to have that sort of, like, an element of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I felt like that was still sort of historically representative and everything. So the Pygmies in Blood and the Chocolate are a race of Incan people from Peru that over hundreds and hundreds of years have sort of degenerated due to exposure to sort of magically tainted cocoa. And of course, the Willy Wonka stand-in and everything, stumbles upon them, then carts them all off to a plot of land that she has in Friesland, and sort of begins to build this factory.
That gave away nothing about the plot. So folks who folks
no, because that's all just in the intro.
Yeah, absolutely. That's like the first 5 minutes of reading right there. Absolutely. But I mean, you did it in a great way, right? I mean, you took a beloved childhood treasure, and you took the parts that are relevant to what you're trying to do, and you cut away the parts that aren't, I think it was human. I love the villainous. She's a great character, precisely because she's a smart villain. Who doesn't need to be some kind of awful, supernatural, crazy beast in order to terrorize the player characters. That's fantastic.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was a huge thing for me because I wanted. So Lucia di Castillo, the villain of Blood and the Chocolate, a really strong mandate for me was that that we have awesome mixed race woman villainess, but also that her being evil is not a product of madness. It's not a product of
magic or
like a lot of the things that you would typically think of, like, oh, like the crazy cultist or like this evil villain and everything, where it's like, no, she's just kind of a despicable person,
right?
Like in a way that is very human. Like she's motivated by greed and like pride and like just a lot of other shitty personality traits, because that's just kind of who she is.
And that's
like,
that's what makes it feel human to me, is that yes, there's all of this, you know, fantastical stuff going on, but you know, it only serves, in my mind, to kind of highlight that humanness of that that character. I love it. I think it's so cool.
Well, that's also like, that's a big departure from like, so in Roald Dahl's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Willy Wonka is basically a cipher. Like there's almost nothing to that character. He is literally just a wacky zany person who sort of like guides this tour.
Takes the plot from point A to point B.
Yeah, like he is sort of this distantly amused sort of god that is there to sort of oversee and punish the sins of the and also sort of flaunt his mythical sort of weird ways and have this abundance of like obnoxious absurdism. The 1971 Gene Wilder film sort of improves upon that and everything, because Gene Wilder is so goddamn charming. And he makes that role like Willy Wonka in the film is still sort of distantly amused, but it's still like, oh, that's a real man. Like by sort of embracing the fact that like this place is extraordinary, but as you're watching it, you're like, maybe this could exist.
Right, he's no longer Cat in the
like
Hat.
An actual person.
Yeah, yeah. Because I think he was almost like a Seussian type character before that point. Yeah. So I'm going to shift gears, and I want to talk to Daniel for a minute. Daniel, Fairy Tales from Unlit Shores. Clearly, you had. I mean, I guess the obvious starting point from that is Prince Charming Reanimator. In my book, I kind of feel like you started this beforehand, before Prince Charming Reanimator, and I see the puzzlement on your face. That's great.
By beforehand?
I think for me, the way I look at it,
zero level funnel.
The way that I feel like your oh shit, I'm having one of those moments when I'm starting to doubt that you wrote the thing I think you wrote. You wrote Thing in the Chimney, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so from
another beloved childhood character.
Right. So from my point of view, that's where the you know, in the way I look at it, that's where this tear that you start off, your departure point was. You know, for me, you know, as a spectator to your brain, that's how I see it. I saw, oh, he did Thing in the Chimney, and then from there he goes into Prince Charming Reanimator, and that's how this whole thing moves forward. How cool is that? So, what? Well, go ahead. Don't.
If you go into those original fairy tales, right? Prince Charming is a guy, comes up again and again, marries Cinderella, gets her out of the well. In the original story, Sleeping Beauty, and Snow White. Right.
Gets around.
Snow White, as everyone knows, is found in a coffin. The glass coffin.
Mm-hmm.
No. This guy's into dead. From there, it's not too far from H.P. Lovecraft's Herbert West Reanimator.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And which is why, for example, in Prince Charming, the area that he lives in is Westlake, because it's west. Dr. Chapman, all the names, in fact, come from Prince Charming. Come from Herbert West Reanimator.
All of the names come from the book I wrote. In the book I wrote, yes.
No, yes, that's true. But they all come from Lovecraft. It's like you've read The Arwich Grinder.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
those are all Lovecraft names too. Reused and switched around a little bit, but
yeah, the Metal Gods team learned to dread the that mountain that all happened on pretty, a little while ago. Yeah. It was Diogo Nogueira actually had played that adventure before I ran it for the Metal Gods team, but he was like, what the fuck are you doing with this? So it was good. You'll know that I lived up to the what the fuckness spirit that you put into that.
So sooner or later,
Mhm.
because I know your child is young,
Yeah.
you start reading.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sooner or later, you're going to find that there are points in those children's books where you can scare the living shit out of kids if you want to.
Sure.
Oh my God!
It goes
Yes.
back to Dr. Seuss, The Cat in the Hat.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they finally tell him to leave, and he doesn't wish to go. And so, said the Cat in the Hat. So. A trick that I know. And if you can't,
Man, you
if
just took
you
this
can't, you don't
really
read it that
creepy,
way,
really
you do it
fast.
wrong. If you don't read it that way, you've done it wrong. I mean, because, you know, for a kid, of course, it's going to come out okay. So it's being scared, and it's okay. And for a role-playing gamer, well, it's being scared, and, you know, it's not you, it's your character.
Yeah.
You may hurt, but it's not... it's good to play with that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
The best stuff out of the best children's literature and children's movie and everything tend to be profoundly fucked up.
Oh yeah,
and real scary. And like that's some of the best aspects of it and everything.
The second Oz movie.
Yeah.
Return to Oz, absolutely, with Fairuza Balk.
You know, like oh hey, here's this.
I know you.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, here's this thing. It's going to give you electroshock therapy.
Yeah.
Look at this happy face.
Have you guys seen any of that new series, the Emerald City series? That's a modern retelling of Oz. That's on right now.
TV or film?
It's on TV. Yeah.
No, I have not.
Yeah, I have not.
I don't get into shit like, you know, the fairy tale TV shows. Like my wife really likes that Once Upon a Time. I don't get into that. I don't get into that, you know, those things. But this show is really well done because it is a more adult, contemporary retelling of the Oz myth or Oz cycle. It's really cool. Sorry, that's my plug for a TV show that's on right now. That's really bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's actually, if you pick up that first Oz book, right, or any of them, I guess, there's an introduction. Baum, the guy who wrote it, wanted to write a fairy tale for kids that took all the darkness out.
And
you know,
yet,
it includes the guy who's lost his entire body because he's chopped off a piece one by one because this witch, you know, the original Tin Woodsman, it was human, and the witch cursed his axe.
Yeah.
There's a lot of horrific stuff in there.
Yeah, my wife made it through that whole series a little while back, and I started asking her questions about it, and she's like, I can't begin to answer any of these questions because there's just so fucking much. There's almost 20 of those books, right?
Yeah, there's a lot.
And each one expands the mythos just a little bit further, you know? So let me back this up. I think the worry that Don had about us talking about, you know, mining childhood for gameable stuff is the problem that we back up against, you know, frequently, especially like if we're talking about like Gonzo gaming. You know, we Don and I we push back against that label a lot, and that is that there comes a point in time when we're almost flirting with whimsy, you know. I have a bit of a distaste for whimsy myself. I mean, fantastical elements are great. I love them, but I'm not keen on, you know, coming too close to anything I would consider, you know, whimsical, like Willy Wonka in the original, you know, telling, as you were saying, Kyle, where he is like this cosmic imp character, who a Cat in the Hat, as you know, on his own.
So I have no problem with whimsy whatsoever.
No,
fucking love it.
Why would you?
I think it's great, and I think you can have good times with it. That said, it is important and everything, like, not to overdo it. It's also important when you're including it to also balance it with something that is, if not a little more realistic, perhaps just a little more grim or a little more grounded.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
I was actually going to say.
Like that is so again, for writing Blood in the Chocolate and everything, like I had to consume just everything to do with the original book, the first movie, the 2005 remake, just fucking all of it. I revisited all of it to write this thing. One thing that I noticed, especially that the first movie gets so right, even beyond the original book, is that Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory is fantastical and extraordinary in things. Everything outside of it isn't. Like, because they filmed it in, I want to say they filmed it in Munich, Germany. But the locations that they filmed it and the actors that they casted and everything, like, it makes the world that Charlie Bucket grows up in very grounded and very bleak.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you watch that as an adult today and everything, it's like, oh, Charlie Bucket is legit ass poor.
Yeah.
And his grandparents are monstrous looking. Like, they're some sad ass old people. And everything that reinforces the fact this is a boy that has a paper route that he uses the money to buy food for his family and tobacco for his grandfather. This is a boy, we're in class and everything. It's like, oh, how many Wonka balls did you open, Charlie Bucket? 2. Which, only 2? Like, everything about it sort of compounds the fact that, like, everything around him is sort of, like, very real and kind of sad. And that way, when you transition, because Chocolate Factory, it's like, oh my God, look at all this magic and wonderment. Like, it balances it out, and it provides a good contrast.
Right.
5 Tim Burton remake and everything is Dickensian and whimsical from beginning. And that's an aspect of, like, the original book. Like, Charlie is comically poor in his family and everything, but he's also, like, this wonderful, perfect child who is, you know, absolutely above reproach. He's literally listed in the opening of the book. Like, all the other kids get listed with all their, like, shitty character traits, and finally Charlie Bucket is listed as the hero.
Huh.
So in regards of having whimsy in your game, or, you know, trying to avoid whimsy when you're taking stuff from childhood material and everything, like, you might want to sort of downplay it a bit and everything.
I think it's more of a fear of things sliding into unabashed whimsy. You know, that's the real, it's not fear of whimsy itself. It's not fear of, like, its proximity at all. It's fear of it taking over, you know. And that's, I guess, a difference, you know, in like playing a game as a child and playing a game influenced by childhood stuff. You know what I mean? Because, I mean, I think we can all... I'm not sure where everybody came into gaming. Kyle, you said it was a little bit later in life for you. For me, you know, I think I was 8 when I got a Mensa Redbox.
Wow.
And, you know, so I didn't really have a separation between childhood behavior and RPGs, you know, and so I kind of had to learn to take things seriously. So, you know, that's gaming as a child and gaming as an adult are vastly different, you know. Well, I mean, I guess gaming as so many different stages along the way, right? So it's not just like there's a yep, here we go, this is childhood, this is adulthood, and every, you know, no difference, you know, never the twain shall meet, and there were never any subdivisions within those categories. That's not what I mean.
I guess I never had that and everything. Like, I started playing D&D when I was 21. And I had played it a little, like, I had played, like, maybe a few games in high school, but that was one of those things where it was like I hung out with friends and, you know, we played, I think it was like 3rd edition for a little bit. And I didn't really know what was going on, but I was like, rolling dice, I got a character, this is a good time. Cool, I guess this is the game. And it wasn't until way later that I actually owned the books and everything was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm going to be a dungeon master. I'm going to actually, like, start running this for, like, the people I know.
Yeah.
And then from there, it was like, oh, I can also make a career out of this on the side? Oh, nice.
Well, career. Daniel, it sounded like
I was also going to say, though, yeah, because you keep talking about whimsy, and I was going to say that it's not whimsy unless it doesn't matter. Right? Whimsy is something that's there. It's goofy. It's strange. It might be kid-like, but it's because it doesn't matter that it becomes whimsical.
Okay.
When it bites your face off, it's not whimsy.
Right. Cool. No, talk to me about that in context. Are you saying that? Are you saying that we should
finding Sleeping Beauty is whimsical. A dragon made out of roses is whimsical. A dragon made out of roses that's trying to kill you is not whimsical.
Sure.
Sleeping Beauty who turns into an undead monster is not whimsical.
Okay.
Right? It's if it matters in the game of whimsy, because you have to treat it as being something important.
Yeah.
You have to treat it as real because your face is going to get bitten off.
Yeah.
I would
menace
or your arm. I mean,
threat.
it doesn't have to be your face. It could be your leg. It could be, whatever.
Yeah, I could say that seems to be a consistent a thread here. Between your writing and Kyle's. It seems that the evil genius of Blood in the Chocolate is an evil genius precisely, evil genius, because she has access to all of the things that could be considered whimsical, but it's ultimately the humanness of that character that makes her interesting. Yeah, okay, I'm with you. I got this. I'm with.
And admittedly, like there is some goofy ass things in my adventure. Like there are 8 diseases and curses that you can get that are a possibility of contracting while you're in that chocolate factory, or outside of it, I guess too. And they can be played for laughs, and they can be played of like, oh, that's goofy as heck. But at the same time, because everything else around it is still holds this sort of like sense of menace and threat, they become more than just sort of inconveniences. Like, because your bodies are sort of like warping and twisting around you, and like, oh, that's goofy, you're blowing up like a blueberry and everything. It's like, yeah, but now that's suddenly impeding my ability to do stuff in the adventure and get away from harm.
And if you've seen certain things that happen in certain places, you know how far south that can go for your character pretty fast. I have to say, blueberry orgy, just that I that did it for me right there, man. I was like, holy shit, what's going on here? Oh fuck.
Yeah.
Oh man. Anyway, okay, Don, you've been quiet for a really long time. And he's continuing to do it.
Yes, I have, Adam.
How are you feeling about this conversation?
I feel wonderful about this conversation.
How do you... that's not really helpful, Don.
Yeah, it's still silent.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not a big. I don't mind childhood lit to write adventures.
Well,
so
what was
very little to offer.
Well, what inspired you when you were a youngin? If it, Kyle found inspiration in Willy Wonka. Daniel found inspiration in ye old Grimm's fairy tales. What can you say? What was there anything that like set you down the path? Or you just like, there's a wall, I don't want to touch any of that shit.
No, I guess I mean I did. We kind of already talked about previous episodes. I read a lot and early on. So I kind of feel like I almost skipped most of the fairy tales and, moved straight into. But that said, my grandma had this huge collection of fairy tales, like stuff that I'd never read. I don't think it was like the horrible endings like the original stuff. But I guess when I was a young kid, I would always go over there and read that.
Red cover?
I don't remember the cover at all. But yeah, it was, it was thick. It had, I don't even know how many it had. It had stuff that I remember when I first read it. I'm like, wow, I've never heard this. Of course I was familiar with the Disneyfied fairy tales that we all know. And I really wish I could remember what it was because
there was a Reader's Digest volume.
It could have
been. It had
a
red cover, gold leaf on the pages, quite thick. One of the earlier ones that I read myself.
Yeah. It could have very well been that.
There's something that I want to bring up because I feel like it's kind of inspired by this kind of childhood logic, but it's not directly like it's not so directly referential like the stuff we're talking about. I don't know if any of you all or our gorgeous listeners have read Stacey Delafano's Zaya's Promise, the recent Kickstarter for the third printing of, was it fourth printing of Swords and Wizardry. She did an adventure for that, and it touches on childhood myth an awful lot. I'm really inspired by stuff that makes me feel in a lot of ways like I might have when I was a kid, and I'm not saying necessarily like, oh, that makes me think of riding my tricycle down the whatever, there's a degree
You'll
of
shoot your eye out.
Right, there's a degree of existential dread that comes from childhood. Not everything is like rainbows and happiness. There's some stuff that, if it can make me feel the terrified tension of youth, I am just like, it makes me melt just a little bit, or that's the strange awkwardness of experiencing the unknown as a child. Zaya's Promise, I think, is a fantastic adventure. Again, friend of the show, Stacey D, wrote this great adventure for her for the Kickstarter, and it revolves around the dreams of a child. So it's not so much like referential of any childhood myths, but she's written something that's very much in the vein of that. It kind of ends up with an Alice in Wonderland sort of feel, but it's Alice in a very dark Wonderland, not quite, Red and Pleasant Land dark, but it still has that kind of sing-song dream logic of I don't want to say a nursery rhyme, but of a childhood or a kid story writ into the dungeon crawly atmosphere.
Yeah, Zaya's Promise is a great example of that. I think it's important when you're sort of pulling from a lot of these things, because it's very easy to sort of like, especially with fairy tales and everything, because they are so dark, but so many of us are only experiencing them through, again, like Disney movies and everything, and musicals and stuff. So, trying to invert those tropes and taking fairy tales and other sort of like early childhood stuff and be like, oh, it's all like dark and spooky now. Like, look, we've hot topified it and everything. It's like, that's sort of really easy to do, and you can get a certain amount of mileage on that. Like Blood and the Chocolate's got a bunch of that as well. Some of it I think is great. Some of it I'm not as proud of, but kind of works.
Well, it's good that good that you know that.
Parts of that,
Daniel.
Parts of that don't they mean that you can anticipate, because the material to some degree. You can anticipate what's coming, and you're wondering how it's going to be messed up to mess you up.
Yeah.
Where
Absolutely.
When you're going through a regular standard adventure, you don't necessarily have that opportunity.
And if you do, it's actually just a bad module writing or bad adventure writing or whatever.
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily, because you take something like One Who Watches from Below, right?
Okay.
Or Frozen in Time, or anything Harley Stroh's written, and you get these things built up, right? They're building up a mythology where you realize that something bad is going to happen by the end of the adventure. You kind of have an idea what the theme of that something bad is going to be. Like, if you go through Bride of the Black Manse, you're facing the devil by the end, or their version in the module. But if you're going off of something based off of Willy Wonka, you kind of know what you're going to face in a way when you step in. You just don't know how screwed up it's going to be. What
direction the screwed upness is going to take.
So there's a level of anticipation, feared anticipation, right?
And that was something that because I tried to take like the core elements of sort of that story and everything. Like, there's a lot of the zanier and more fantastical things in that I didn't include, mostly because like it didn't fit. Like, I had to. An important part of this factory is, for me, it needed to be a functional space. Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory is not. It's a Candyland, like Wonderland type place. Lucia de Castillo's factory, or Chocolateria, that's a functional space. Like it is literally laid out like injury. Like there is sort of internal plumbing and there's internal like breakdowns of these rooms need to feed into this because Industrial Revolution era like process making chocolate and everything. For me, it needed to sort of be functional, or else it wouldn't feel real. Like it would just feel like, oh, this is a funhouse dungeon.
Right.
Fucking nothing matters.
Not
like,
that there's
we'll
anything
die,
wrong
who
with
cares?
that, but
I'm not as big a fan of it.
it doesn't hit your
Fuck,
it
yeah.
doesn't hit your design goals, right? And so that's
Yeah.
fine. Honestly, I feel like Zaya's Promise is kind of a funhouse dungeon, but with a really solid premise for why it's a fucking funhouse dungeon. You know, sorry, I didn't mean to come back to that, but yeah. No, I'm with you. That's good kind of detail to have in there, man.
Yeah,
So
well,
really-
a red and pleasant land is a fun house too, in a way. But if you view it as a fun house as a player, you're not going to survive it.
Oh no,
That's the thing is that, and again, RPL does it so well and everything because again, like when James and Zach sort of stumbled on like a lot of the really good elements of Lewis Carroll and stuff. It operates on its own sort of again, it operates on the same sort of logic as those books, stories, and everything. So when your players begin to clue into that mindset and everything, it makes passage through Castle Cashtis a little easier. Because that way, suddenly, when you encounter the Queen of Hearts and everything, it's like, oh, offer to play croquet. Fucking let's have a conversation with this awful, torturous vampire woman. Because that seems like a thing Alice would do. And again, by following a lot of that logic, you get a lot farther.
Yes.
The same way, to a certain extent, the players that have had the most success with Blood and the Chocolate basically roll up to the place, knock on the Dockmaster's door, and be like, "Oh, hey, we're here for the tour." And the Dockmaster's like, "Say what now?" But again, through a lot of convincing arguments and having the right sort of regal appearance and everything, they're like, yes, here. And they're able to get by all the guard towers and everything with no problem. They get invited in. And then as the Dockmaster goes to sort of fetch Lucia, they're like, okay, let's fucking leg it. Let's start exploring this place. And then she comes, and then later on, Lucia will come raging down from the upstairs area being like, you did what? What do you mean you let people? Of course we don't do tours.
Good stuff, man. So Don's been quiet again, so
Yes.
I gotta pick on him. Don, let's say what things from your like with this, I don't want to say necessarily new perspective, but with this perspective that we have been bringing to bear on the idea of mining childhood awesomeness for gaming purposes. Yeah. What would you want to mine? What from your childhood do you think is worth this kind of activity, this kind of introspection?
You're making.
You think? I know.
You're giving this question
to a drunk person. I know.
Someone who
it's the show. It's how it works.
Had a childhood. No, but I'm beginning to suspect that really this is not much different than mining Appendix N or mining Tolkien.
Not at all.
It's just.
It's not.
It's the same shit, man.
Maybe
It's
it's the same.
Shit.
It's the same shit.
Yeah.
I just had a thought and you erased it by your ridiculous question.
God damn it, Adam.
Not by agreeing with you. Oh, okay.
I always do this.
Yeah.
No, but I was
write it down next time, Don.
Yeah. That takes a pencil. No.
Because internet's not a thing, and computers aren't what we're talking on.
I can't type next to the microphone. Come on. I'm a professional.
I'm doing it all night, jerk. Talking back to chat.
No, yeah. It's just another resource to mine.
Okay. Well, let me shift gears. There's at this point in time, I want to shout out to someone else who I think does this exceptionally well, and that's Pierce Shea. his monster parts, specifically his adventure into the woods. Oh my God, that is my favorite thing I've run probably in the last year. I ran it at GaryCon last year, and I will, as a result, run my own Monster Parts thing this year, which, instead of being based on his childhood experiences, because they're not mine, it will be based on my own childhood fears and weird shit that I bring to the table. But Into the Woods, he directly states, this is the result of me having both night terrors and sleep paralysis, and this is the shit that drove me crazy when I was a kid. That level, I mean, there's a degree of authenticity that comes from the childhood experience, and things that harken back to the childhood experience, I think, lend that authenticity to it. The raw experience of being a child and everything being new, to me, that's why mining this stuff for gaming use is so useful, because it speaks to like a primal seat of terror and anxiety and wonder and awe that I still feel a connection to, because I can remember it. You know what I mean? And Pierce Shea's Monster Parts is a great example of that. In fact, if Daniel hadn't agreed to be on, I really would have been knocking down Pierce's door. I'd be like, get on my show right now. There's still a part for him on a horror episode, I promise. But that's that. Shit. I feel like
you have a question there, or?
I don't really have a question there. Make something of that. Here's the thing. Here are parts. Here's parts of a conversation. Put them together. See what happens.
Daniel, do you want to go first?
You can find also, like, when you're looking at people who do that really well, that kind of a childhood logic.
Mm-hmm.
King, with his writing, suck logic. Neil Gaiman, particularly when he's writing for kids, the Graveyard Book, Coraline, great stuff. And for Don, who says didn't read anything when he was a kid, and that was childhood literature. You probably saw E.T., probably saw all those Spielberg things, Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That stuff's having, I don't want to say it's having a resurgence now, but like it was I want to say it was insufferable, but it was kind of irritating. I went to Metatopia as one of their scholarship people and everything, and the amount of games being play tested that were inspired by Stranger Things was I mean, hey, Stranger Things is amazing, and I love it, and it's great, and I'm tentatively excited about season 2 because that seems kind of cool. But one thing that Pierce Shea's Adventure in the Woods does really, really well is it makes the idea of playing child characters compelling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I hate that in games.
Yeah.
Like, that's one thing. It's like, oh, you get to play kids, and I'm like, fuck children. I don't want to do that. Like, no. And I mean, that might change. Later in life, I will probably change that stance. But like at the moment, I'm like, I want to play adults. You're doing adult things.
I would really like one day to write a 2-part DCC funnel, where in the first part you are kids, and in the second part you are the adult survivors dealing with the shit you fucked up when you were kids.
So that sounds kind of cool.
That's
it
like,
really does.
Because there's that sort of there's that transition and everything where one part of the play goes through another. That's kind of awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's really like the basis of Stephen King's It, for example, right? They come back and
they lost a friend.
Their stuff undone.
Yeah.
CC, you'd lose a few more than one, but
but there's a tremendous amount of fairy tales and like really sort of early children's stories and everything that you can sort of mine for like instinct. I like drawing from places like that because they tend to avoid a lot of the sort of generic fantasy tropes that these, a lot of role-playing games are kind of inundated with. That's not a bad thing. You can have a ton of fun with those tropes, but I'm kind of tired of them. And I don't find them especially satisfying to write, because again, a lot of people write them, and there's an abundance of it done way better than I could possibly write them. So that's why I kind of want to take it a bunch of different angles to adventures and other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But things like, again, like you can take stuff like the backbone of like elven moral culture of absurdist moralism from stuff like Dr. Seuss. All the again, lots of Alice in Wonderland, Lewis Carroll, like Zach and James from LOTFP have done tremendous amount of work with that, with Road and Pleasant Land. All the stuff from Roald Dahl, like most of Roald Dahl's book, from his like autobiographical stuff to just like his stories, there is a ton of gameable material there.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'd really be interested to see games try and pull more from Harry Potter. Harry Potter is basically like, it's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory meets The Witches meets Matilda. Like it's heavily inspired by a lot of Roald Dahl stuff, and it uses it to decent effect. I don't know how gameable it is though.
I have one slight homage in one product.
Oh yeah,
To Harry Potter.
Harry Potter.
Okay.
To Harry Potter. In the Revelation of Malmo, where I used as many elf and appendice and references as I could, there is a human female who wanted to learn magic, who has been taken apart by the elves. Hermione, but I called her Hermia or something like that. And you are a mortal person, and you jump into the quote-unquote wizarding world.
See, that whole the Harry Potter thing is a little after, my time. I mean, I get it, I definitely understand the aesthetic, and I've enjoyed all the stuff, but I'm one of those people that, like, I was disappointed in the way the series ended because I made the mistake of thinking of it with my brain, not the brain of a kid who I wasn't when those books were written.
Yeah, that's the thing. Those books really sing if you read them at a level of those characters. Like, again, I was Harry Potter's age when I read the first book. Yeah. I was about the same age when I read
you guys are so young.
Sorry, man.
It's just Kyle, man.
I'm technically a millennial. That awful word.
See, this is how we know you're a millennial. You thought to describe yourself as a millennial.
Yeah, that's the thing. I hate using that fucking term.
We don't. Us older guys don't think about it. So,
but
Daniel, what's up?
I was just gonna say, because once you have kids, right? Like my oldest was born in 1990. My youngest is 10. I've got 3, so I've spaced them out really, really well.
Yes, you have.
So yeah, you're looking at me like Pond Fire Vulcans or something. I don't know, but I've been able to watch kids movies now for more than half my life, and the other half I was a kid. So
yeah.
I've gotten away with all the kids lit up until now.
So what about what kids lit do you think would be really hard to do? In a fun, in a really cool, gaming setting. What do you think it would be hard to enjoy this way?
Or are we talking like making a game centered around that kind of world, or are we talking about including that as an adventure for something like Dungeons and Dragons?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Let's. I mean, we've all come to this from kind of a D&D centric kind of point of view. I mean, we can talk about making anything gameable, if it's the right game session. I mean, if we're talking about like doing it from a Ryutama kind of, point of view, that's completely different than coming at a D&D sort of perspective. And that's
like someone could basically make a game out of something like A. Milne's Winnie the Pooh books and everything. And I'm sure it would be a fantastic game, but I would never fucking play it.
It sounds terrible.
So if you watch the original Star Trek, right? A Wolf in the Fold, the villain is actually Piglet.
I think I knew that.
Yeah. So if you close your eyes and you listen to the voice, you can put that right into Piglet.
A lot of those books are sort of sweet and mellow. And again, for the podcast, I had to look up a bunch of stuff that I'd read as a kid or a teen and everything. Be like, okay, what can I draw from? What can I talk about? And A. Milne is sort of, they're sweet and melancholy, but I feel like ultimately kind of uninteresting. The characters are cool, but the stuff that they do in a gameable sense isn't. E.B. White is kind of a mixed bag. Charlotte's Web is dope. Little is not fantastic. Um,
One that I was pretty heavily in when I was a kid. I was really heavily into the Narnia stuff. I think that stuff is a little bit too obviously gameable, and too obviously, well, I mean, like directly gameable, but difficult to divorce from its, underpinnings, and in a way that would be satisfying to me. I think that I'd love it if it was. And this is one of those things that I thought it would be really hard to do that in a way that I would enjoy it. I didn't read the book The Magicians, but the series is on Netflix. The first season of the series.
The book is fantastic.
The book was very good.
I have to read it now because I watched the TV show, and the first couple of episodes like this is dumb, and then I watched a little bit further. It's like, oh shit, this is great.
No, the book is excellent. The Magicians is probably one of my favorite fantasy books written in the past decade or so.
I love the fact that they made shit difficult for no fucking reason. That's my favorite thing.
That's how stuff in real life is.
Exactly. Shit gets complicated because shit is complicated.
Yeah, and it has its pastiche of Narnia is really fun.
Yeah,
it presents it in a way where I'm like, because I was never all that in. Again, I got into Tolkien really late, and I had relatives that were really interested. It's like, oh, you like that Zelda and everything. Why don't you give the Chronicles of Narnia a try? And I'm like, you're trying to convert me to Christianity, you piece of shit.
That's how my dad...
This is what that's ultimately about. You're like, let me push this pro-Christian book on you. Good stuff in Narnia. Again, The White Witch, or The Snow Witch and everything.
Yeah.
Fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
Talking animals.
Between the Worlds is good.
Yeah. Talking animals, The Magicians does it really well by basically being like, these talking animals are like real people.
Yeah.
They're not they don't act as narrators. They don't act as they act like normal people would do, except they are also animals.
And they're not like a caricature of a series of stereotypes that we have about that animal, which is pretty much all they amount to in Narnia. Which I thought, I enjoyed that about the series. So yeah, Narnia is tough for me, because I fucking loved it as a kid, and I think there's so many obviously gameable things in it. I mean, Voyage of the Dawn Treader is like, holy shit, hex crawl, let's go, and I love that shit as a kid, and that is how my dad managed to sell me on Catholicism for a good long time, well, long is a relative term, but as a kid, he's like, hey, sweet, Jesus is a fucking lion. Oh, awesome! I can get behind Jesus being a fucking lion. That sounds cool.
So one thing, and
one good gameable bit. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say in terms of one thing that I actually take away a lot from children's lit and stuff is actually more in game production, because a lot of role playing games, especially modern role playing games, tend to look kind of samey, with a lot of sort of digital paint release stuff and everything, and you're outsourcing and hiring a lot of people that are displaying their stuff on DeviantArt. Games tend to look kind of generic.
Yeah.
You go back to a lot of those early children's lit books and everything, and taking inspiration from a lot of the illustrations and everything that are there. I would fucking love if more books looked like the way Maury Sendak illustrates books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, that's what A Red and Pleasant Land does so fucking well.
It's got its own definable aesthetic, and you can say, look, that's the thing, Yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
And again, not to toot my own horn, but with my tastes and my own sort of sensibilities, there is a reason why me and James got Jason Bradley Thompson to do the art for Blood and the Chocolate. Because again, his is a style that I am so enamored with. From not just the walkthrough maps, but his work doing webcomics for WotC way back when. His work on Mangaka, just really sort of wonderful stuff and everything, but still not too dissimilar from what you might have gotten in a child's novel and everything.
Yeah,
except with obviously a lot less gore.
Sure. Daniel, you were starting to say something a minute ago.
Oh, because we were talking about Narnia. You know that there is an Arwich grinder bit in Narnia, right?
Mm-mm.
In the silver chair, they're staying with the giants, and they discovered that they've been eating the sentient talking animals.
Sure. Yeah.
There are people in that story, and there are clearly people in that story, and they've been eating them.
Mm-hmm.
And the kids are eating them too, right? They don't know.
Yeah.
That's a little bit of mileage you can take into a game.
Yeah.
Well, it's that kind of stuff where it's like, as a kid, there's a lot of monstrous things in children's entertainment where you're like, as a kid, you're like, oh, that's kind of scary, but so is everything. So, and as you're an adult, you watch back to a lot of these and it's like,
And you say,
oh
what the
man,
fuck?
that was actually secretly really fucked up.
Well, yeah, absolutely. So obviously for me, Narnia was a big one. I think there's a lot of stuff that I wish I could figure out a way to do well, or to capture that same kind of energy or aesthetic. I was a big Shel Silverstein kid,
Yeah. Shel Silverstein's fucking great.
And I think that there is, again, in a lot of his writing, this fairy tale logic that often borders on cruelty that I think would be a lot of fun to figure out a way to gamify. I don't know if I'm up to the task. So there's my challenge.
I think a piece of advice, and again, like I did an entire adventure book that is basically Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Right.
But I feel like a small piece of advice might be to be like, don't do what I did and actually just sort of like mix and match pieces from all kinds of books and stuff. Like, you don't need to sort of limit yourself to, I want to do something with this one piece of...
Oh, yeah. That'd be, like, really hard to do.
Because, like, I got away with it by including, okay, so this is also colonialism and capitalist cruelty and industrial revolution and slavery and all kinds of other stuff. So I was able to dig into the history and sort of lean on that a little more. To separate it entirely from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. There's also a bunch of Hansel and Gretel stuff in there if you dig deep enough.
If you have just one thing, it's not really an adventure.
No, yeah.
You need it's a bunch of things thrown into a bag and mixed together.
Right.
Yeah. Well, guys, I feel like we're getting to that point where we're I don't want to say we're done, because I very rarely feel like any conversation here is ever finished. I feel like we've hit a great point. Don, do you have anything else you want to add before I do this thing that I do?
Nope. I was going to wrap it up myself with a good comment that I had about 10 minutes ago. And
so we should have ended this conversation 10 minutes ago, is what Don's saying.
Well, it was maybe because this works so well, because you are both, like we already stated, you are touching on nostalgia, your own personal nostalgia of being a childhood, but it's not been done a lot. So there's also a freshness to it, whereas everyone has, read Tolkien and Robert E. Howard, and they've been doing that in the RPG since '74, right? So
I think it's easy. It's easy to do that stuff, right? Because
it's easy to do that because
it's not easy to do it well.
No, it's easy to do it well.
You're right.
Because that is pretty boring nowadays, right? Because that fed right into the game. That is the game. Whereas you guys are kind of taking, older stuff. Nostalgia's involved, freshness, it's new, not everybody's doing it. You guys are mining it very well.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And that was my thoughts. I'm not gonna do it.
Oh no, thank you. I thought that was sarcasm.
No.
Hard to tell with Don. He's so yeah.
Yeah. The only advice I would give to, especially gorgeous listeners, if you're listening and you're wanting to get into this kind of, again,
knows what's going on.
This air quotes industry.
Right.
Because I do a lot of freelancing for 5e publications. I've done some work for WotC. I've done work for Insider and EN World. I've done, again, I did stuff for Lamentations of the Flame Princess. I'm contracted to write another book with them, which I actually really need to finish researching and get off my ass and do more of, because I'm sure James is getting impatient. James, I love you. I'm so sorry. And I'm also doing layout on 2 books coming out, hopefully before the end of the year. But yeah, for other creators and everything.
I was hoping you were going to remember
take away
where you were
anything
going. That's good.
Yeah. If you take anything away from this conversation, everything, look for other stuff to draw inspiration from other than, again, that Appendix 10 type of stuff. Especially if you're looking to sell something, because it's been done.
Yeah.
And
Fuck, if you're not even looking to like to publish it, if you're just looking to run a good game, like one of my top 5 things that I would tell the people to to be a better DM, to be a better writer, read some shit that isn't the shit you've already been reading. Read something that isn't fantasy, if that's what you've been writing. Read something that is just vastly different from the thing you've already been doing.
Yeah, like, again, history is great to dig into. Like, I have a very special type of psychological damage and everything, where, like, again, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory got lodged in my brain.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like taking stuff from childhood memories and everything, taking stuff, like weird idiosyncratic things that you're like, oh, nobody's going to want to play that, and it's like, maybe, but it's also going to be different, and it's going to help whatever you're writing stand out.
Yeah.
Because that's what you need, man.
Yeah.
That's what makes it you, right? Is what excites you. And if what excites you is, elves living in forests and dwarves living under the earth, okay, that's fine. You can write some normal stuff.
Yeah,
but
that's good stuff. Well, you can have a lot of fun with that.
But if you really
it's
want to have
harder
fun,
to make meaningful.
it really is. Let's push your own boundaries, so you can make something that's unique and ingenuitive and honestly you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm with you, man, 100%. So guys, I meant to this season, I meant to really revitalize a portion of the show that kind of has fallen by the wayside, which is the third rail. And I had an extra week to do this, and I didn't do it. Now, typically how this works is I like to ask folks a question about gaming that is one of those questions that maybe, strays into, uncomfortable territory, or things that, maybe it's controversial. I don't know, not too controversial. It's not.
I'm so excited for this question, man. You got no idea.
Well, I got no question. That's the problem.
I'm looking forward to this
I was
entire show
wondering
to,
what
like.
controversial gaming question was this going to be?
Yeah, no, I got nothing.
Do you got one from seasons past and everything?
Oh.
That you put a spin on?
Yeah.
Let me see. I'm just
recycle.
gonna reach into the grab bag, and we're gonna see what was there.
Oh yeah, because
Okay.
we actually wrote some down.
Yeah, we
years
wrote
ago.
some down like a
Yeah.
while back. Let's see here. Is it? Yes.
Usually it's something ridiculous like.
Yeah, it's something like
Do you
minuscule
like-
that I know what I'm talking about, and Don's like, "That's not a fucking issue." I'm like, "You."
I know, like, do you like
trust me.
3-point alignment or 9-point? And I'm
Seriously,
like,
there's a huge difference,
it doesn't
man.
matter.
It totally matters. Oh,
It doesn't matter.
Yes, it does.
See, here's the thing, Adam. I was totally on your side and everything, and then that's what the question was, and I'm like, oh. I mean, no, there is a difference. There is, but it's
Stand
also
There's a difference.
nine-fold alignment.
There's a
I just
difference,
can't
but it
stand
doesn't
bugs
matter.
me. It's so boring. But okay, so this was recent. Okay, so here's the thing that was resurrected recently. This was somebody necroed a thread on my blog, and that was I wrote a post a while back about alignments not being for first level. Because I think that it's kind of pointless to give your character an alignment at first level, because what the fuck does your first level character know? They haven't chosen a side. They haven't aligned themselves with law or chaos or not yet. They're still like somewhere in between. So that came up recently, but that's not a fucking question.
Right.
Oh, damn it!
I don't make players choose until their first level.
Why
Yeah.
would you?
No
It doesn't
character
make
has to
sense.
choose in the 0 level funnel.
I don't even name characters in a 0 level funnel till they hit level 1.
Oh, well, that's not very fair. I mean, honestly, you want to know who died?
Right.
Woodsman
Because
number 2.
later on,
I'll tell you, I play in with the augur, the birth augur. I use that basically as a stand-in for name, because that's much more the intimate fact about that character than anything else, that even a name would be,
I keep track of the characters who die because later on they will show up again.
Nice.
That's
when you run into ghouls, they might be characters you know.
That's awesome.
Fun. I like that.
That is good. That is good. But okay.
You got one?
No, go ahead. If you got a good one, let's hear it. That's what we should do. We should make the guests come up with something for season 3. That's good.
We've talked a lot about,
and then you have to answer.
Yeah.
I'm going to answer a question. No. So we've talked a lot about children's literature and childhood memories and stuff like that. This is something I feel like you guys have maybe more experience with because you guys have been playing these games a lot longer than I have. But do you have moments from running games as a kid or a teen or like a young adult and stuff that are super cringeworthy? Like looking back and everything, like the hard lessons you had to learn from like tough moments in games. You were like, oh, that was such a dumb. Again, like if you didn't make those mistakes or run those really like, oh, I wish I hadn't have done that and everything. Like now you know.
Okay, so I'm gonna open my embarrassment hole first, and say when we talk about cringeworthy, there's so many different directions we could go. We could talk about just bad judgment, right? And we've all had that at one point or another. And then there are things that you might have done in gaming because you were a stupid fucking kid and you thought that might have been a good idea. Like maybe it was something you introduced because you thought you were being, cool and edgy, or you thought that was the like a way to be adult about gaming or something like that because you're 15 and you don't even understand what that means. Because I mean, I'll admit when I was a kid I took gaming like hyper fucking seriously. I mean, clearly it's a huge part of my life, it still dominates a big part of my active and subconscious minds, and so I think that the most cringeworthy moments were when I wanted to be taken seriously. I wanted things to be like more adult, because you do the dumb shit you do when you think you know what that means. Maybe it's introducing sex into games, or maybe it's something like that. An attempt to tackle a big issue in your gaming when you're not mature enough to actually know what it fucking means. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So those are my most cringeworthy moments, and is when I bit off far more than I knew what to chew, knew how to chew. That's the stuff that I look back on, even as an adult. I'm like, what, man? Oh. I hold on to that stuff and internalize it for a really long time. And I can think of moments from like my middle school gaming career that I was like, oh shit, man, did I seriously do that? And here I am, more than twice my life, removed from that shit. And I'm thinking like, why did I do that? You know what I mean? Don's laughing at me. What do you got, dude?
I wasn't allowed to play the devil games when I was a kid. So
all your embarrassing shits from later in life.
Maybe. Like, I don't think I even started playing it until I don't remember how old I was.
Did you play like Star Frontiers or some shit like that growing up?
No, that wasn't me. You always think it was me, and it wasn't me.
I know, it was Nathan.
No, I had played Warhammer 40K before I ever played D&D.
Which is way more suspect.
Right. I guess that's my cringe-worthy secret is I liked
40K.
Yeah, I guess
40K is great though.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. Second edition I started playing. Yeah. Oh. And I don't think I started playing D&D right around then, and I don't really have any. Yeah.
First edition right there.
Well, did you play
nice.
it though?
Yeah, well, kinda. We used it as a role-playing game.
No, my friends in high school were into Warhammer, and I could never afford to do it. I had like I had one figure, and it was a promotional thing that they gave away at a
Nice.
con.
Yeah. What about you, Daniel? Any?
I have never played it.
Well,
No, any cringe-worthy
cringe-worthy
moments?
I've never played Warhammer 40K.
Uh-huh.
So there you go.
that's your cringeworthy moment. Is that you
But
have to
no,
have done something?
I was gonna say when I was in high school, I attempted to do a adventure setup with the temptation scene from Lord Fowl's Bane. You know, basically what in DCC would be. You know, you run into a patron who's going to offer you a deal,
Uh-huh.
but I didn't know how to make it work at that time, right? So there was nothing to motivate the players to really consider it as a real choice. So flat that
I got a more concrete example that will make mine make a lot more sense, which is the Evil game.
Oh yeah.
You know, the Evil campaign, you know?
Mm.
When you don't understand what that fucking means, right? You don't know how that could be done well, and it's just a gore fest. Because
Yeah.
let's
I can see how that can be fun and everything, or at the very least, like kind of cathartic. But like, when you're sort of like, when you're trying to just role play as like, as what a young person imagines, sort of like,
it's basically just playing everybody's id.
Mhm.
Just like no ego at all, just id. That's it. Break it all.
and then you say, okay, roll up new characters, and now you have to go after these guys.
See, but
Nice.
we weren't thinking that far ahead back then.
Your village.
That's a great idea as an adult. Yes, as a middle school, high school kid, I'm not thinking that far ahead. Shit. Yeah.
As a player, Tomb of Horrors, I was running in it. A friend of mine ran it, and I used the characters from the back of the Rogues Gallery. And every single one of them jumped into the Green Devil face. One after the other. Because he didn't tell me what happened. Well, you don't know what happened. Well, okay, I better try. I guess we're all going to go. Well, that was quick.
Oh man.
Best game ever.
Nice.
What's that guy's name? John Wick. Sorry.
Uh-oh.
I shouldn't utter that name out loud. I'm sorry.
Names?
We almost had a run-in at UConn this year with him. And
So you say that name, and the only thing I can think of is the Keanu Reeves movie.
God,
I have no
wish.
connection to who that person might be.
He's the designer of 7th Sea and some other shit, and he famously talks shit about Tomb of Horrors, and
Oh, that's right.
yeah, he's the guy. He's the guy that Zach got in a conversation with about D&D isn't a role playing game. It's basically chess. If D&D is a role playing game, then chess is a role playing game.
Mm.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Sorry,
No.
I know.
Yes.
He also spent a lot of. He and Leonard Balsera spent a lot of time at the guests dinner at UConn this year, talking shit about D&D-ish games in general to friend of the show Ryan Thompson. And when they realized that Ryan Thompson was the guy who runs the OSR track at the show, they shut up real fast. So that was good.
Yeah.
Hey,
I was so this is some long-standing beef and everything, because I listened to a bunch of DSR a while back, and it's like this is common. This is an old wound. But I get it. I totally get it.
Well,
Like I got my version of
if
that.
you-
Trust me.
If you have to make decisions from the point of view of your character, then it's a role-playing game. It's not a
because you're
role-playing game
playing a
because you win when you move
motherfucking
the knight.
role. Yeah. It's a
You move the knight while playing chess, and you winnie because you're moving the knight. That's not a role-playing game. It was what the fuck the knight thought.
Thank you, Daniel. Now we know why I like you.
Well, I was going to say because you're young and foolish, but
Yeah.
At this point in time, let me just take a moment to read. We actually had reviews.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Great.
yeah.
Let's hear review. Why are we reading reviews? I just I understand the emails, but is this just to tell us how great we are, or is this to say here's a concern they have and we're going to address
hopefully.
it?
Yeah, both of those items, Adam.
Okay,
You
cool.
pat yourself on the back a little bit.
This is what people do on podcasts, you know.
Is it? They
Yeah,
read their own
have
reviews?
Yeah.
Wow. This is weird to me. This is alien. I might have to veto this segment. Let's see how it goes.
Well, I do the editing, so I'm probably going to I'm gonna edit out you talking shit about John Wick, and I'm gonna
You
leave
shouldn't
this
do
part
that.
in.
You should leave the John Wick shit in.
It's
Because he'll never listen to this show.
It causes controversy.
I'm a controversial
I'm
figure.
so tired of controversy in the RPG scene.
Yeah.
We just sorry, this is an in-joke between Don and I. This is a joke.
You know-
I'm so tired of the bullshit.
He's calling me out.
Speaking of controversy, Metal Gods 4.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Shut
Does
up.
it even is that even a thing?
it's
Because
kind
I
of a thing.
submitted something to that, and I figured I probably killed you guys.
You did? What did you?
Yeah,
say?
I did.
I'll have to look. I don't remember that.
You didn't put it in Metal Gods 4.
It's
That's
'cause
why it's going
it
to come
doesn't
out.
exist yet. Yeah. Stephen Newton gave us something that's pretty awesome, so we're definitely using that. But
You guys should put that out.
we talked about this in the break. So do your thing. Do the thing that I don't understand, and we'll see how it goes.
Oh, do you want me to do it now?
Do it. I
Now
thought you were
don't
gonna
wanna
do it.
Now I don't even want to do it.
Okay. Good night, everybody. Read your thing.
Okay, we've got this is now. I don't have any love for it. Fuck it, Adam. Hey, it's been great having you guys on.
Well, thanks so much.
Yeah, I really enjoyed meeting you guys.
I made Don say.
And-
fuck
I was
it,
looking
everything.
forward to the reviews.
I know, right?
I know I'll never know what people are saying about us.
Well, the one was true. It said we should probably drink less and stay on topic more.
That's not the point of the show.
That's
Like you'd be
point
taking out,
missed.
you'd
Yeah.
be taking out the D out of the DSR.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, what are we drinking in part one? Everything. Well, we have a nice mineral water with lemon. We stay
Oh.
clear of mind and conscious of thought,
So there's
and
this
we're going to have a real on-point discussion.
about once a season we mention the never to be aired pilot episode of Drink Spin Run, and I think if someday if we really hate the guy who is on somehow, which I doubt will ever happen, we'll release it. But it's that level. it's before we understood that it really should be Drunk Spin Run, and it's a different beast altogether.
What do you-
I think it's charming.
That's going to be in the box set, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's gonna be a special.
Yeah. Commentary track, something like
what are you drinking, Ray? Tea.
Motherfucker. You knew what you came here to do, Ray Case. You knew it.
Yeah, we totally.
I feel bad for not being intoxicated because if I had been, I probably would have gotten into some real weird shit. with this
Well,
book.
next time you come back, you're going to have to get weird, and it'll be awesome.
Mhm.
The only one rule we have is let's just keep our clothes on. That's all I care about. If we do that, everything else will work
I've
out.
listened to some of your podcasts. I know that there are cases where people can't stand up, so I don't think that's a steady rule.
no.
No, you can.
I've-
If you can, if
totally
you can't
done it
stand
in
up, but
underwear
you still
before.
have all your clothes on, you're totally cool. That's fine.
But hey, if you listeners have any thing you want to hear about, let us know.
Yeah.
We would love to cater to your wishes.
Ooh, he makes it sound like it's like dirty. Yeah.
Oh,
this
and
isn't
you know what
Crash-
else you should say,
What's
by
that?
the way, to your readers? Not just if you want to hear about it, if they have any suggestions for what you should drink, spin, or run.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Like, I'll take some good suggestions. I'll be at Gary Con, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
so
we should
Midwestern's
catch up.
got a lot of good beers now.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
You and I, we're catching up at GaryCon, okay, Daniel? We're gonna have some drinks.
For sure.
We'll record something. It'll be great. I've actually I've got a plan for
I'll have to
GaryCon.
apologize the next day. Yeah.
I've picked up. Don has let me down yet again, and he won't be at GaryCon this year for the 4th year in a row. Well, I guess all of the years in a row, all of Don's years in a row have been not including GaryCon.
It's true.
So this is my 4th year going, where Don hasn't gone as well. So instead, for our very special episode from GaryCon, I've picked up a substitute lovely co-host from Hobbs and Friends. Jason Hobbs will be joining me as my lovely temporary co-host, fill-in co-host for that show. And I guess I'm also supposed to do an episode of his show at the same time. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah. There's no podcast panel this year that I've been invited to, so which either means I fucked up the last one too bad, or there isn't one this year. So it's one of those two things. There are no other possible options.
Yeah, I couldn't begin to imagine.
Yes, I couldn't possibly fuck that one up for everybody ever. Yeah. So, all right. Well,
yeah.
Clearly, this is a panel that should not have been missed.
I had a blast.
I think it's on something.
It's on Dead Game Society and like someone else's podcast as well. But yeah, it was a good seminar, and it basically was me heckling the seminar, which was fun. If you hadn't guessed that would be my role in the seminar, was the asshole. That was my job. Anyway, I'm sorry guys. We're doing that thing where we digress. This is the goodbye part of the show as we give our guests hugs and send them on their way. I want to say goodbye to our fantastic guests. Kyle Chenier, it's been a pleasure meeting you, man.
It's been great listening to you guys.
You listening to us talk with you on the show. Yeah, I get it.
It's been great talking.
That was good. That was a good jab. I like it. But you are, sir. Welcome back anytime. It was a pleasure having you here. Daniel Bishop, pleasure meeting you as well. Many years have gone by with us knowing who each other were, and somehow we managed not to actually talk to each other. How'd that happen?
That happened because I was mostly stuck up here in Canada, where you were not.
Yeah, I am not. I am. That is very. That's the truth.
Nice
I'm not in Canada.
Yeah. Honestly, I have less of an excuse.
And Kyle, you are in Canada, and I haven't met you. You're like what? Probably like 60 miles. Sorry, I almost said miles. Canada. You're probably like what? Less than 100 kilometers away.
16 miles, 100 kilometers. It's like the same thing. Yeah. Daniel Bishop, it's been a pleasure having you here. You are as well. Welcome back anytime. Guys, it's been a great time having you here. Don, my lovely co-host, you're the best, man. I'm so glad to be back here for season 3. We need to sort out who we're going to have on the show. Yeah, it's awesome so far. I love how this recording shit's working out. We'll talk more about that in the future, something or other.
So easy.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope it works. Otherwise, you'd be calling us back saying we got to do it again.
I'm seeing good signs here. It's good. Everything's going to look good.
Nice.
And you gorgeous listeners, you're awesome. You're the best. We're so glad you're here to join us for this this beginning of season 3. And sit tight. We got a lot of great stuff planned, and we'll be here a week from tonight with a new episode. So thanks a lot. We'll see you soon. You all have a great evening.
Later.
And don't go changing.
Oh.
All right, and we are no